Well, hello, listeners, and welcome to Connecting the Dots with DelRo. I am your lovely host, Dylan Del Rosso, aka DelRo, and I am here to help showcase the power of networking, both professionally and personally. On this podcast, myself and my incredible guests will share our stories on how the art of connecting has shaped our lives and careers. We'll share our successes, failures, embarrassments, tips and tricks, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and much more. What I'm getting at here is we're all here to connect with each other genuinely. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Well, listen, you'll be hearing plenty of me, so let's get to it. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome back. Today on Connecting the Dots with DelRo, I am joined by the incredibly well-accomplished Anthony Fasano. You may hear me call him AJ, as we were high school buddies, but currently AJ sits on the board of county commissioners for Sussex County here in New Jersey, as well as a million other things, which I'm sure we'll get to. But AJ, how are you, my friend? Glad to have you on the show.
Well, thanks so much for having me, DelRo, and it is so cool to be here. I think being one of your guests that actually went to high school with you is I'm honored, but I also know a lot more about you than your previous guests. So I think this should be an interesting dialogue.
That's a really good point. I got to stay on my toes here. The other friends I've had on the show are all newer friends. You're right. So excited to see where this goes. So happy to have you on the show. AJ, as you already mentioned, we're good buddies. We go back a little ways here, but a lot of our listeners are going to be new to the conversation here. So why don't you give a better idea of who Anthony Fasano is and why it is you do what you do?
Well, why it is I do what I do is a tougher question, but we'll start with where I am. And right now I have the honor of being Deputy Director of the Sussex County Board of County Commissioners, and I was elected to that board last year. That role is responsible for the county. We set legislation and our budget, and essentially anything with Sussex County's name on it, we're responsible for, and that has been quite a journey, especially over the last 12 months, given the pandemic. And I got that role, and I got a lot of my education for that role based on my previous experience of being on the Hopatcong Board of Education for the last 6 years. And aside from that, in government office, I'm also a business development manager for an IT company. They brought me along a few months ago, actually, to begin their new endeavor into public education and partnering with public education nationwide. And that in essence is my day job. So in the day, I work with school districts, and at night, we're all things Sussex County.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad you touched on all of it, and I'm sure you're even leaving some out. You're a busy guy and always have been. And thanks for kind of laying out the roadmap there. Now, I'll tell you, as a Hopatcong chief and a native myself, I know AJ Fasano, and I bet others would know him as the athlete. Played what seemed like almost every sport, and the class president. And those are like the first two things I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about AJ. So why don't you touch on just a little bit more of your impact of being an athlete as well as class president, and a couple other things, and how that, I don't know, got you into where you are now, like what, how that kind of transpired.
Well, I think it's a good story of how everything leads to something else, and certainly sports. And this, our small town of Hopatcong did have a wide variety of sports. And I've said quite a few times that I absolutely would not be here as a person, as an individual, without sports, specifically youth sports and high school sports that shaped my life. Certainly, we know classmates that was the reason why they came to school, was because of what they wanted to do after school from an athletic sense. And there's so much that you learn from sports across the board that you can translate into any area of your life. I actually think the school board and football are relatively similar. The difference being you can't tackle anybody on the school board, and there have been times in which I wish I could. But that experience in athletics shaped me and certainly helped me understand not only the value of teamwork, but the value of communication, particularly in stressful situations. And then, as you mentioned, I was class president. And if I weren't class president, I probably would have never been a school board member. I don't think many high school students necessarily know or care who's on their school board, what their school board does. And I got my first interaction as school board president with the school board in terms of working on a senior class trip. They wanted a lifeguard present for what we were doing at Virginia Beach there. And I started to understand what it is that not only with their involvement for a school trip, but also their involvement in everything associated with our high school life. And that's what got me exposed to the school board a little bit. And then it was really after I graduated high school that I kind of had an epiphany where I went to Montclair State. That's a state school. Ideally, the high schools in New Jersey are setting you up for higher education, and they're mimicking state school standards for what they're setting you up for. And as a freshman in college, it was a prerequisite to have a laptop. But as a senior in high school, as you know, we didn't do any of our work on laptops. And in many respects, laptops were heavily discouraged. So that was a huge, nobody really had one in high school. And there were some classes that straight up banned them. But this was the way of the world. This was the way of college. This was the way of employment. And I wanted to see a day where every student had a laptop of their own. That was my inspiration to run for the school board. So if it wasn't for sports, I wouldn't be class president. If it wasn't for class president, I wouldn't have been on the school board. If I wasn't on the school board, I would not be here today, a county commissioner. And that's probably all because of that decision to just get a little bit involved many, many years ago in our town and meet people like you. And you learn a lot just by talking to people.
Man, you said it well. So it's incredible to hear. And also, it's a small town Hopatcong, right? Like I like to think everybody who comes out of there has a chip on their shoulder, right? To beat what everybody else may have at one point thought it was. Like, we are coming and we're getting it done, and it's so fantastic to see it evolve for you. So what I want to do, and me and you share another piece of our story together, that I think this is something that even my listeners and people in my inner circle of my network as a connector don't even know this part of my story. And that's, I want to bring us to our humble beginnings here, Subretti's.
Yeah.
So you got me a job. I don't know how, I must have been 16, 17. I don't know. You were either already class president or about to become one, but you were working at Subretti's, hot dog joint in Hopatcong. And I just wanted to take you back, which you got me that job. That was my dream job, AJ. I'm a hot dog enthusiast, as many people may know. And I wanted to touch on that only because this show is obviously all about the power of networking and connecting. And tell me, I think you might have even shared this story with me in the past. What type of relationships were you able to build from behind the hot dog stand? And where has this also fit into your kind of big picture story?
Yeah, well, I can't, just thinking about that time, and look at us now, DelRo.
Look at us now. Who'd have thought?
Exactly. But that, first of all, I think the reason why you got that job, and there was a lot of competition for that job, you were head and shoulders above the competition because of your knowledge and your experience with hot dogs. So you deserve that. Nice. But behind the counter, I mean, I don't think a lot of people equivocate a small hot dog stand in a small town as a place where you can learn anything.
Yeah.
And frankly, neither did I when I took that job. I'm a high school kid. I got football practice and school and all these things to manage. And obviously, 16, 17 years old, you also need money. And that was the most convenient place to do that. Yeah. But that who you meet on the other side of that counter is an amazing opportunity to learn a little bit more about your town. And that hot dog place, although I enjoyed working there and It certainly served good hot dogs. That wasn't always the busiest of places. So you did have the opportunity to kind of talk to some of your customers that came in. And one of those customers very much shaped my outlook and was the reason very much so why I decided to run for the school board, which I'm a senior in high school, not thinking much at all, working behind the hot dog stand. This old woman who I've since have met and are still good friends, came up behind the stand. She ordered, 2 hot dogs or whatever, and she noticed that I was wearing a Hopatcong football sweatshirt. And she asked me if I was part of the Hopatcong football team, in which I said I was. And she said, well, I'm going to go to the next school board meeting and I'm going to ask that they eliminate the football team. And her reasoning for that, and of course I was taken aback, and I said, why? Well, we're not having a bad season. I don't think there's much to complain about. And she said, well, I'm a taxpayer in town, and the test scores in Hopatcong aren't very good. And certainly the football team is contributing to test scores being as low as they are. And the school should really just focus on its test scores before it cares about football. And I took tremendous offense to that, not only as a football player, not only as class president, but somebody who was a National Honor Society student. And I didn't think that that was a good assessment of me or my teammates, many of whom were very, very smart. And that's where I sat her down. I paid for her order. We talked a ton. And that's where I learned about this thing called the Board of Education and its interaction with the community. And to know that there were people going there to say you should eliminate areas that I think are just as important to student achievement. Student achievement, there's this misnomer that inside of the classroom is where student achievement happens and where you should focus the most. I think it matters just as much outside of the classroom, whether it's on a field, if not more, whether it's on a field, whether it's on a stage, whatever it may be. That those are big, big areas of your life where you're getting a different type of education. And I know myself, many others, would not be where we are today without athletics and those programs. So when I did get to the school board, I'm happy to say that the football team was absolutely not cut, bolstered. We've added some programs there, and also the input of students. And sometimes that's forgotten on a board of education. Your stakeholders, of course, are your community, it's your taxpayers, it's your employees, but it's also your students. And we were able to put in about 50 new courses, some of those courses were never seen before in public education in New Jersey. Not bad for Hopatcong.
It felt like it happened right after I left. All the cool courses. And that's because you took office, I guess. But I was like, damn, my brother's got some cool courses going on.
One of those courses, which I had the opportunity to be involved in, we had a group of seniors, I think this was in 2013, 2014, who came to us and wanted to learn more about coding for video games. And Hopatcong, when you and I went to Hopatcong, DelRo, there was a time where I was taking chorus. I'm a terrible singer, but I was taking chorus because it was either that or go home early. There were no other real course options available, let alone, when I went to college, I'm in calculus, I'm in economics, and I'm discovering that, wait a minute, there's a kid from Randolph, there's a kid from South Amboy in my class, and they've taken these classes before in high school where I didn't have the opportunity to take those classes in high school. And what did that do for for how prepared I was for that college course? So all of that, because of that one woman that I met at a hot dog stand on a random weekday night, it was a slow night. Just to get her insight and to get her feelings, and she did not go to that next board meeting. I convinced her otherwise, but that's where it hit me that I can be impactful, and that I can bring a perspective to the Board of Education that was probably missing, and that was a perspective of what a classroom looks like in Hopatcong, what a classroom looks like at a college, and how you can build an academic institution around that and the modernization of what you're doing. And now today, every student has a laptop of their own, and that has come certainly in handy over the last 12 months during this pandemic.
Oh yeah.
That school district has made a complete 180, in which none of its education was taking place on laptops, to now, at least for the last year, nearly all of it has.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And obviously you're speaking to some of the obvious transitions needing to be made due to this pandemic of ours. And yeah, it seems as if you guys came in right in time for that. I don't want to know what it would have looked like to had to scramble for that, like I'm sure many other towns probably had to. So um, fantastic. And I think you speak to something that's beautiful about what, and why I wanted you on this show. If you're willing to have the conversation and driven by curiosity, always driven by curiosity, you're standing behind that hot dog stand, and 9 out of 10 times they'll serve you your hot dog that you probably even won't get any words out of them, and you'll be on your way. But you were like, I want to learn more. And somebody else could have even just taken offense to it and moved on and hubbubbed about it to their boss or something. But yeah, it's beautiful that it was kind of born out of that. So in the sake of curiosity, I want to get into some quick, like a fun part of the show, some rapid fire icebreakers. Listen, as a connector and in sales and having gone through the college orientation of icebreakers, I like that phrase and I stick to it. So I think it's important to get the audience a bit more familiar with who you are. So I'm going to fire out some questions for you. You just tell me what's on your mind, short, long, doesn't matter. Here we go.
Okay.
Favorite athlete?
Eli Manning.
Okay. Now, of course, I'm a Jets fan and worked for the Jets, but give me quickly, why Eli? What's it about? You've obviously a huge Giants fan.
I'm a huge Giants fan, and I always loved watching Eli Manning. I had the opportunity to attend Eli Manning's first game. I think it was something about just, that's your childhood quarterback. That's who I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. And I've had the opportunity to meet him a few times. He's an amazing person. But man, I loved Eli Manning. He was the athlete that I most related to. And I know he has a lot of viral moments of him looking like he doesn't know what's going on, but he always had a plan. And he didn't care if you knew that he had that plan or not. And I just related to that. I love Eli Manning.
Yeah, listen, post-career, Eli Manning has it figured out as well. He's not going anywhere. He's still on my TV screen. So fantastic. Favorite subject in school, which this is a way more interesting question for you than other people.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you knew I loved gym, and I did love gym.
Yeah. Real gym class hero.
We were legitimately gym class heroes.
I remember going into the locker room afterward and just hitting the hand dryer, just going right up with the armpits, because I had second period gym.
Yeah.
And my day was ruined after that.
Yeah. No, I definitely. And I love that. I was also very big into history. I was big into English as well. Those two courses, I don't know if I knew how much I liked them in high school, but they've become very relevant for me now. And I've always enjoyed those. But on the flip end, mathematics and chemistry, I hated those courses. It was terrible.
Yeah, me too. No, I was not a numbers or science guy.
Yeah.
Best slice of pizza you've ever had?
Lombardi's in New York City.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a big pizza guy. We are blessed to live in a pizza capital of this country. You can get good pizza in essence anywhere in a 10-minute drive. We have become very used to that. But it was only a couple of years ago that I stumbled upon Lombardi's in New York City. I had a slice and I walked out with 4 pies, and those pies are pretty damn expensive in New York City.
They are.
And they didn't make it a day. That was so good. I still think about that pizza. Well,
listen, I've had Lombardi's before, and you're right. It's pretty damn good. On the topic of food and beverage, you a beer guy or wine? Beer or wine, or if it's neither, what is the preferred?
I think I'm transitioning. I think that's a good way to put where I'm at right now. I was a big beer guy. In fact, I think I recall you being a big beer guy as well. We did have the opportunity to show that to each other at a few college parties, if I recall. But now, I mean, a good glass of Riesling or Pinot, that there's something happening to me where I am
Me too.
transitioning. Yeah, definitely.
I'll tell you, and I know these are rapid fire questions, but nothing I do is quick in conversation.
Yeah,
I am in the same transition, AJ. I can't drink as much beer. I'm so full. And a couple glasses of red wine. I'm on a Cabernet kick,
yeah,
hard,
yeah.
and fantastic. Okay, last one for you. Best live event you've ever been to, concert, game, whatever it may be.
This is going to tie into my previous answer, but probably the best. And I've been to great concerts and great games, but I had the opportunity to participate in the ticker tape parade after the Giants won the Super Bowl. Those were one of the times that I did meet Eli Manning. I was on the bus. My father actually worked for Gray Line in New York City sightseeing, and I had the opportunity to go on the bus. At that time, I think it was 2008 or 2009 or something. I've never seen the Giants win a Super Bowl before, let alone being a part of that in New York City, seeing those thousands of people. I will never forget that for as long as
And
I'm alive.
you were on the bus.
I was on the bus. I actually had the opportunity to speak to members of Victor Cruz's family, and they were delightful. They were amazing. And just being there and just, living it as a fan, but also being on a bus with people who were living it as players was so, so cool. And I think I was a freshman maybe, or I was young, and that experience that made the whole year. I'll never forget that.
I'll tell you, that's pretty surreal and a great story to share. So, shifting to your career in the education field as well as the political sphere, I want to know a little bit more about your side of the story. So, to kind of layer this a bit, I guess my question is, how does a 19-year-old, which is how old you were at the time, campaign against 11 other adults for a spot on the Hopatcong School Board right out of graduation?
Yeah.
And I want to know, I guess, what sets you apart from your competition?
Well, I had this approach, and I was very fortunate. When I decided I wanted to run for the school board, the first thing I did was take roughly 6 to 8 months and go out and talk to as many people as I can who have some relevant or potentially some relevant information for me. So talking to other school board members throughout the state, but also here in our town and locally, talking to businesses, talking to teachers. I think I met with about 30 or 40 teachers from Hopatcong before publicly making my intentions known that I wanted to run for the school board, just students, and then also talking to we went to school with, who ended up being a part of my campaign team, friends of ours who were a part of that effort of just making a few phone calls, putting a few flyers together, helping me knock on doors, all of that, spreading the word on social media, those little small things. But when you're talking to that many people, months and months ahead of ultimately pulling that trigger, I knew by the time that, my petition was in and I was on the ballot, that not only did I think I would be a good fit on the school board, but I was confident that I was the best person for the role. And that's simply based off of having an understanding of the role, doing your homework, talking to as many people as you possibly can. And I knew that would set me apart from some people who were also running in that election. And then also being able to connect with the voter. And, in our town, the voter cares about how good are our schools going to be, how much are they going to cost, and is it going to be better than what it is now? And I felt that my experiences as a student, K to 12 at Hopatcong, has prepared me for having an understanding of the institution, perhaps a better one than others who did not go to school here or who are not fresh out of that experience. And also as somebody young who's in college, who's in the workforce, who is dealing with this every day, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ahead of where our Hopatcong students were. And trying to prepare them for what I thought was coming at them. So that took it took a tremendous amount of effort just to even get to the school board. Of course, you're going in front of community members at Meet the Candidates nights, and you're knocking on doors, and the experiences of knocking on doors was amazing. First of all, I realized that not too many people knock on doors.
Not too many people answer.
Not too many people answer. But there, here I am, and in my suit, and Hopatcong doesn't exactly have nice flat driveways and roads either. So here I climb the mountain to get to your front door. I'm here at your front door, and I just want to know what you think of our school district. And getting that type of feedback from our community was amazing, and helped shape what I would do for those next 6 years on the school board, which was an amazing experience.
I love the way you depicted that. And, from literally knocking on doors, I think it's interesting. And I want to tie this to a lot of the times when I'm sharing my message, or people are coming to me seeking advice on how to do a certain outreach or whatever. I say, I go knock on doors and I let them open it. For LinkedIn, right? That's where, of course, everybody's like, oh, LinkedIn, shut up, Dylan. But on LinkedIn, that's my strategy. I'm going to go connect with as many people as possible. I'm going to go knock on as many doors as possible. And those who connect back with me are the ones who open the door. Now I'm in your living room. All I want to do is have a conversation. I just want to know your opinion on things and how I can help you. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was doing the same exact thing. So I love that you were able to kind of bring that to life. And then you touched on one other thing, and it was being the right person for the job. You truly felt that you were the right person for that role. But as you know, as I know, as society knows, that doesn't always mean you win and you get the role. So speak how you put together the perfect campaign with, I certainly can't imagine you had too many resources. Mm-hmm. I mean, just naturally compared to what, your competition may have had. How do you scrap that all together?
Well, I know that I didn't have as many resources as some of these candidates, and I knew that going in. I actually took the night job at McDonald's on Route 15 in Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
To pay for that campaign. I'm 18, 19 years old. Certainly don't have much money to my name. School board elections, although they are not necessarily expensive compared to other types of elections, they're certainly not cheap either.
Yeah.
So that was my strategy on how to attain those resources. But in terms of putting together the perfect campaign, I don't know if my campaign was perfect. I don't know if I would qualify it as that, but it needed to be relevant, and it needed to be relevant to the issues of the day at Hopatcong schools, and also relevant to putting away bad rumors about schools. I remember making this case that I felt as a student, I was at a disadvantage before my hand even hit the front door of our school, because of what our community thought about our school district, what was written about our school district.
Yeah.
It was in the bottom 10% of our test rankings. And certainly I remember, knocking on doors and, what are you going to do about this rampant drug problem at Hopatcong High School? And what are you going to do about that terrible football team that's dragging down our test scores? And, I heard this and I heard that. And I knew I was in a position to combat that and to say, wait a minute. I wouldn't be where I am without the education that I received at Hopatcong from K to 12, from those teachers, from those staff who dedicated their life to us, but also that don't knock our school district, and that was, we needed to have some boldness in how we approached our district from a leadership standpoint. And it was to make clear that Hopatcong is here to stay. And it's going to be a modern academic institution for many, 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 many decades to come. And it's going to come through policy changes, through fiscal changes, through how we teach, through getting the insight of our staff, and trying to make that all relevant to the community member who really only cares, are you going to make our schools better? Are they going to be more affordable? Am I going to get a better return for what I'm paying in taxes? And how are you going to do that? And I felt, just based on my experiences as a student, based on all of those conversations for months and months in advance with hundreds of people who had some type of knowledge or just a little bit that they could give me about something at Hopatcong, that made a world of a difference. Former principals of ours, people who retired, just going to them and asking them, what did you like at Hopatcong? What did you wish you could do that you never did? Asking people questions,
Yeah.
more so than anything. I've learned that the hard way 1,000 times is
Yeah.
ask people, and you will find out what you need to find out.
I love it. And, I think we've talked so much about Hopatcong, and I think maybe it's time to broaden the scope a little bit, because
Yeah.
you didn't stop there, did you? Right. So I'm a proud member of Sussex County I'm 26. I've lived in Sussex County for 24 of those years, probably. And I want to talk a little bit more about where you went after this. So you were elected as the Hopatcong School Board president back in 2016. And of course, as we mentioned, now serve as county commissioner, a county commissioner for the Sussex County, making you, I think, the youngest county commissioner in New Jersey. And for as we know, it may be the youngest in the country. I'm going to just maybe tell that story and maybe just embellish it a little bit, but whatever. I want to know how did you transition from one role to the next, from representing the school board for Hopatcong to now everything Sussex County?
Yeah, well, I never had an intention of being a politician, of being in public office. I went to school for business. That's where my heart is. Even if it has made my life, my daily life, a little bit more difficult, I still want to be in private business, and that's what I enjoy. But in the public sector, again, sports, your experiences as class president, it led me to the school board. Well, the school board, I found myself interacting with the county. And what was the county doing? And by that point in my school board career, I was finishing up my 4th year as president, my 6th year on the board. When I went into that office, I had on a big whiteboard a big to-do list on everything I wanted to accomplish at Hopatcong Schools during my time as a board member. And I was running low on boxes to check. And I kind of came to the conclusion that I've put in a good 6 years here. I think that it's always good to have fresh thoughts and new blood here on this board. And I've checked off nearly everything on my list here. One of my last items was putting in that very pretty new green track at Hopatcong Schools. Very proud of that.
I don't even think I've seen it.
You should go. A school colored track was something that a lot of our students wanted. Now being off the school board, I'll share that so is a turf field. And I did push for that, although that was one of the boxes I wasn't able to check, but there's still a possibility of that in the future. But dealing with the county and seeing my list dwindling, I began to also follow a similar route in terms of what does that position do? Certainly when it comes to reputation, I also had a similar feeling about what Sussex County's reputation is in the state of New Jersey. I do feel it does have a slighted reputation. This county is made up of 140,000 amazing people. And this is a very, very different area of New Jersey that prides itself on being different. But keeping with those values while also modernizing ourselves and really focusing on the future of Sussex County, I felt that there was a real potential here for Sussex County to find itself in the position of still bringing to you what you want out of living in New Jersey, but somehow also bringing to you incredible natural resources, recreation, and things that aren't necessarily as easily available throughout the rest of the state, bringing something very rare in the state of New Jersey, and that's affordability. And that is a big problem in this state. And Sussex County is primed and positioned to lead on that front. And we have seen that throughout the pandemic as well. As Sussex County's real estate market is hot right now. There's a lot of people who are moving here from the cities and other areas. And it speaks to our need to modernize. We have a lot of people working from home. We have a lot of students who are getting schooled from home. We need to provide the best internet infrastructure that we can, the best roadway infrastructure that we can, because our county is changing and we need to keep up with it. And that was really my focus when I decided to make that transition to the county level. It's how do we keep Sussex County affordable, but how do we modernize it so that it provides for our county in the direction that our county is going. And that has been an experience. But, you know, I'll share with you, DelRo, that I had a real good plan in my mind when I decided to run. I got elected in 2019. I was sworn in January of 2020. I had a real good plan on where I wanted to see the county go. So much so I got the liaison position to our county Department of Health. And that seemed really fun until about March. Yeah. And then, you know, that experience has probably been one of the best educational experiences of my life. I've learned a tremendous amount, not only about how county government interacts with a once in a lifetime pandemic, but also how your county interacts with that, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of how to deal with something as serious as that. What an experience coming into the county level, something I'll never forget.
And I'm glad you touched on that, AJ, because I wanted you to try and, for me, and, you know, me and you have shared conversations about this, but I'm sure, you know, to the masses, more people should know about exactly what goes into what you guys are doing as county commissioners. And I guess when you shed a little bit of light for me, my first question was, I don't know how you balance your priorities and how you balance the time, because, you know, you touch on the obvious, right? Public health, right? With COVID, with this pandemic of ours, but then everything else, social services, roads and bridges, and to something as what I found comical at first was mosquito control, but, you know, not so funny when you talk about it on paper. But every one of these issues can't be put on hold, can't be, you know, left for next week or next month. How do you guys get it done?
Well, first off, we have an amazing group of county employees here who work their tail off every day to keep Sussex County moving and to keep us in a position to succeed. But life doesn't stop, even dealing with a pandemic, and in New Jersey, especially, county government is making up that void of what your municipality may not provide, what the state may not provide, and that really all kind of funnels into the county and the county level. And starting with the pandemic, our health department was strong going into 2020, and I'm extremely grateful for that because we had a lot of experienced people, seasoned people who knew how to get things in action quickly. We brought on an epidemiologist here at the county level. We're one of the few counties nationally to have that. That's a tremendous asset for us. And we've been really responsible for the daily reporting of Sussex County, the contact tracing associated with the virus. I'm very, very proud of what we've been able to accomplish at the Sussex County Fairgrounds, having our own vaccination center. Just this morning, I received notice that we have put in our 14,000th shot in the, 14,000th shot in the arm. At the Sussex County Fairgrounds. That's within 14 weeks of operation there. We've been able to provide free at-home testing for all of our residents. We've been able to provide free in-person testing for all of our residents. That needed to happen because of Sussex County's desire, everybody's desire, to get back to a degree of normalcy and to get back there as quick as possible. And certainly a year ago, there were times where I thought that was a huge, huge challenge, and it is. But now, a year later, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see, you know, our residents getting vaccinated. We see and have a much better understanding of how this virus works and how it moves. We've been able to really strengthen our relationships with partners such as Atlantic Health, who has been really, really impactful here for Sussex County, and also some of our private partners, such as Reneco, ShopRites. You're able to get a vaccine at Byram ShopRite. You know, that's been really important for us here in Sussex County, just to get that out. But you're right, there's other areas that there's other areas of the county that don't stop.
Yeah.
Our roads are crucial. I think roads are a prerequisite to a successful county.
And Sussex counties, you had your hands full, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We have a lot of roadways in Sussex County. Last year we were able to repave about 16 miles of that. This year we've been able to double that. So we're going to have close to 34 miles of county roadways repaved. We're also finally putting together some plans to replace some of our older bridges. That includes Sussex County's largest bridge, which actually is in Hopatcong. That's the River Styx Bridge. Yeah. So all of that. Mosquito control, it's a great example of an area that who's responsible for that? Who's doing that?
I didn't know it existed. I was belly laughing when you told me, and I shouldn't have been, because I hate them and they're all over the place.
Yeah, well, you see, we've added some key components to our mosquito control staff. We are expecting some new variants this year, and of course, nobody's really talking about that with the pandemic going on. But in Sussex County, this is a real issue. Recreation also brings its challenges, and mosquitoes is a great example of that. So we have great professionals in the field right now who are trapping mosquitoes, tracking their movement. They're keeping us posted on any advisories that we need to be aware of. And they're also doing great testing and spraying and things like that. That's another county function that serves a real need for our residents, but not something that I think a lot of people associate with county government, but still really important to have.
No, and that list is endless, right? And by the time you're at the bottom of it, everything else at the top is already needing to be have your attention again. So yeah. Everything comes down to time management, and I guess that's a good, transition into your story. Isn't even done here. As you touched on in your introduction earlier on in the show, you're a businessman. You work in live events, or you did for how many years? 5 or 6 years as a director of business development with Eaton Hall Exhibitions. And now in a similar type role with Revalue Tech, which is an open market buyer of new and used mobile technologies. You'll correct me if that's not exactly it, but give us a brief background on those roles and how you're possibly able to do all of this at once.
Well, again, this is a networking podcast, and I got my first role at Eaton Hall Exhibitions looking for an internship. By that point, I was already on the school board looking for an internship. I thought that was an appropriate place to be looking my freshman and sophomore year of college. And I stumbled upon this company in live events. Certainly, I had no experience in that, but the owner of the company was involved in local government himself. And brought me on for an interview, and I think was quite shocked to see that I was 19 years old at the time. I don't think that was the expectation, mainly because I showed up for the interview and he said, "You look like Anthony's son." That was his first opening door statement. "I was not expecting you. You look like Anthony's son." Certainly made me feel as though I had no shot at getting this job at all, and that I was in way over my head. But he agreed to talk with me. We ended up talking for an hour. He gave me basically an entry-level sales position, and throughout those 6 years, I was able to work all the way up to that director position. And I loved that. Taught me a lot. Small company, taught me a lot in terms of how to manage relationships from a private sector standpoint. Long-term planning and strategic planning from a private sector standpoint. And then, of course, business development strategies, modern business development strategies. And I really, really enjoyed that. Still keep in close contact with those guys at Eaton Hall. And just a few months ago, I had an opportunity that I just couldn't really turn down. And based on my school board experience, I also served on the board of trustees at Montclair State University. I served on the board of directors for the New Jersey School Boards Association. I loved being involved in public education. Revalue Tech found me, and they were looking to get into public education and to begin partnering with school districts. And I like it for two reasons. One, because I love working with schools, and two, not that this is a sales podcast, but we also provide a real asset to school districts, and that's revenue.
Totally.
For a district just like Hopatcong, we went through with that one-to-one Chromebook initiative. We have roughly about 1,000 Chromebooks in the district currently. At some point, those Chromebooks are going to get old and obsolete. And they're not going to be able to support the software that you're looking to teach students on. And far too often, school districts choose to recycle that material. They choose to basically dispose of that material, where there could be real value for those old obsolete technology items. So that's where Revalue Tech comes in. We're able to partner with school districts. We're able to take on their old assets. And for school districts, that's revenue. And there's only two sources of revenue, taxation or grants. And we're able to provide a third source of revenue for school districts at a time where they could really use it.
You know, I think you touched on something where it's like these old Chromebooks, right? Like, and it's so funny. Old, you can't keep up with it anymore. You need a new computer every 18 months or do something, whatever it is. So I think it's fantastic that a business like Revalue Tech can come in and make more use and winners of every side that's involved. That's fantastic.
And again, just keeping with the trend of networking, you know, I was introduced to that role because the owner of that company is the second cousin of somebody I went to school with and connected me on LinkedIn, and that's just the way of the world right now. And that really does show everybody you talk to, even if you don't think that that they're going to provide value with what they say or what they do, everybody you talk to, you should approach as a real value opportunity, because you truly never know.
You nail it. And I love that you say that because, in fact, those who you may eat, because everybody has a subconscious and we go into conversations with how we think they're going to go. And those who you expect the least out of, those are the ones that are the home runs, the grand slams. You're just like, I can't believe I met this person and they do so much for me now. And they're just the least expected.
Definitely.
Lastly, AJ, I mean, you've been such a great guest. We've covered so much, and that's what we're here to do, is kind of just uncover the layers of how people have gotten it done, and you've gotten it done successfully in every area you've played in. So I think the only other thing I would have to ask you, and I think I've been asking a couple of these other guests of mine the same question, it's, what's your message, man? What's your message to the world? What do you want to get out there, whether it's related to this show or anything you're doing or not? What do you want to share with everyone?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you saying that I've been a good guest. I'm probably not as cool as Cool Kel with Cool Kel.
Cool Kel.
Cool Kel is pretty cool and set the bar pretty high. But I appreciate it. And I guess I would have two messages. One is, you not only do you need to talk to people in order to be successful, but you need to talk to people who you know think differently than you, who you know it's going to be a difficult conversation. And you need that. I don't even want to say it's devil's advocate. You just need other input and other perspectives from people with other walks of life and other lived experiences. Especially in my position, you know, I'm not naive to the fact that I'm 26, soon to be 27 in government, and I'm working with people who are twice or three times my age, and they have seen some of these things before. You know, they have been a part of experiences before, and it's on you to learn from that. You know, people are not just going to come to you and say, you know, here's something really crucial that you should know. You have to dig and you have to find that. And speaking with this theme of networking, it couldn't be any easier to do that right now. Everything is connected online. You can access anybody in a moment's notice. And now is a great opportunity where if you have a question, if you want to know what somebody's doing, if you want to ask for some advice, you have so much at your disposal. And more often than not, people want to give it to you. You know, they just need to be asked. That's all. And secondly, no matter what, you know, I never ever, and I think, you know, people who have known you and I for a long time, and people we went to high school with, they probably didn't expect that one day you would be here on a podcast with me. You know, I can't wrap my head around that.
Listen.
But the way we got here, and certainly the way that I got here, is you need to build on your small successes. And I have learned that you are not going to be able to build what you want for yourself in a day. And you need to take whatever successes, whatever you have, whatever foundation that you've built for yourself today, and just figure out how you're going to add a little bit to it tomorrow. And if you keep with that every day, no matter how exhausting it is, no matter what, you are going to get somewhere that's going to be impactful, and that's going to be what you envisioned in high school. You know, from working that Subretti's day job, and you know, that was a foundation, and you build on it a little bit every day. For me, it was, you know, leaving the hot dog stand to be promoted to the night shift at McDonald's, and that was a step in the right direction. And as long as you can keep that trajectory going, as painful as it may be, there is success at the end of the line. There is reward for the pain that you may have gotten through to get here. That is the most important. You know, talking to people and build on your little successes.
AJ, I can't have said it any better. From your mouth to their ears, you presented that so well. Look at us, right?
Look at us.
2012 prom king and class president. Note that you're the class president.
Yeah.
We're here. We did it. I think that's a proverbial mic drop. AJ, thanks so much for being on the show. You're fantastic. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much for having me, DelRo. Take care.
To learn more about Anthony Fasano, connect with him on LinkedIn at linkedin.com.